TikTok. The app where people would post anything from dance videos, funny videos, tutorials. But what are the chances that someone who's popped up on your For You page is actually a criminal? Well, today we're going to be talking about TikTokers who became horrible criminals. Today we're covering murder, robbery, sucker punching random strangers for views, and even a case of a TikToker faking cancer. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this video. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today's video is a sequel to a video we made in 2023. I usually like taking my time when it comes to making part 2s of videos, but only because we get a lot more to talk about. Before we actually dive into the topic, I do want to let you guys know that we have a new drop at my website, earldoesn'texist.com, and this is actually one of the designs. See that? It says, I don't exist. This is our first drop where we're moving away from the word Earl. Yes, the brand is still named Earl. Earl is still going to be on the Instagram page, but I just wanted to mature with the brand. If I talk about morbid topics, if I talk about harsh topics, I want my brand to kind of reflect that. So we're focusing more on the word exist and the slogan, I don't exist. So you guys can go check out the website. There's some pictures of me on the screen with the sweatpants, shirt, hoodie, beanie, and a little Scully keychain. But yeah, if you guys want to support the channel, make sure to go visit. And we also have the Sam plushie for sale. So if you want to go support the show, yeah, Two Good Cats is already out. You can go do that if you want to. Remember guys, this is only if you want to. I'm not forcing you to buy. If you want to help out, that's awesome. And if you're new to the channel, don't even worry about that. I'll earn your subscription by the end of this video. And now, let's dive into TikTokers who became horrible criminals. Mr. Prada, murder. 20-year-old Terrion Thomas, known to millions as Mr. Prada, was a rising star in the world of social media, particularly on TikTok, where he boasted over 4 million followers. His content, characterized by comedic takes on everyday scenarios involving relationships and school life, resonated deeply with his predominantly Gen Z audience. But it wasn't long until his audience realized they were sort of being played. And how were they being played, you may be asking? Well, Thomas was allegedly stealing already existing content from people. He would notoriously copy other creators' videos, literally shot by shot, and to make it worse, seemed clearly unbothered whenever he was called out. Anyway, all that aside, on the 29th of September of this year, a 69-year-old male's body was discovered along Highway 51, situated between the unincorporated community of Fluker and the village of Tangipahoa, which is on Louisiana's southeastern border. The Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office reported that the body was found partially concealed along the roadside, approximately 60 miles northeast of Baton Rouge, where detectives indicated the victim was employed. The victim was soon identified to be William Nicholas Abraham, who was a licensed professional counselor, motivational speaker, recording artist, author, and teacher. Abraham was also a former Catholic priest who had regular appearances on local television in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The local coroner concluded that he had died from blunt force trauma and classified his death as a homicide. Authorities later discovered surveillance footage that allegedly identified Thomas as the last person who had been in contact with the victim as he was seen driving his vehicle. And when I say his vehicle, I mean the victim's vehicle. He was then arrested by authorities in Dallas following a warrant issued by the Baton Rouge police. And the arrest wasn't so smooth, as the TikToker had reportedly resisted arrest, backed into the officer's car, and fled the scene. Following this, police searched his apartment, also in Baton Rouge, where they claimed to find evidence of a violent physical altercation along with a significant amount of blood. Also, unspecified weapons. Witnesses also purportedly observed Thomas dragging an object wrapped in a blue-colored tarp into the therapist's car on the 28th of September, just the day before Mr. Abraham's body was discovered. Interestingly, despite being a person of interest and the #1 suspect, Thomas wasn't arrested for the murder, but rather for suspicion of unauthorized use of a motor vehicle and resisting an officer, as well as aggravated criminal damage to property after he allegedly backed into the police car while attempting to flee. This case drew significant media attention, not only due to the gravity of accusations, but also because it involved a popular TikToker known for his humorous online presence. Now, although the police hadn't identified the relationship between Thomas and Abraham, or even a motive to kill by the time of his arrest, people quickly hopped onto the speculation. Rumors spread that Abraham was a child and Thomas had been essayed by him during one or several of their therapy sessions, which is probably why Thomas killed him. Remember, that is just a rumor. As a matter of fact, numerous viral posts on TikTok and Twitter surfaced, gaining millions of views, with claims that Thomas was involved in Abraham's 2015 arrest, where the therapist was accused of inappropriately touching an 11-year-old client. And yes, you heard me right. Though Mr. Prada wasn't involved in the 2015 accusation, there was still a report of CSA against Abraham, though the charges were dropped. As of October of 2024, Thomas remains in custody facing second-degree murder charges while awaiting trial, which is expected to draw significant media coverage. Also, some of his loyal TikTok followers have shared their concerns about Thomas's mental well-being since it was obvious that he was going through something as signaled by an apparent deteriorating appearance online for the past few months. And just to reiterate one more time, the 2015 report of Abraham touching a child had nothing to do with Mr. Prada. That was a completely separate case. And again, those charges were dropped. Some theorize that the 2015 case was Mr. Prada or was someone related to Mr. Prada, which is why he took revenge on the psychiatrist and killed him, but there is absolutely no evidence to that as of yet. And while reading these articles, he's actually eligible for the death penalty. This case is far from over, but it's definitely one to keep your eye on. Ladarius Brownlee shot his girlfriend in the face. Ladarius Brownlee, a 28-year-old TikTok influencer from Texas, is at the center of a harrowing case following the shooting of his girlfriend, Sayeda Zahra Hashemi. That was on July 4th of this year. Now, this couple is actually well known as they have a significant presence on social media, where they showcase their relationship through their joint TikTok account, @Dino and Zara, which at the time of the incident had about 155,000 followers. Their content ranged from lighthearted moments to more intimate glimpses of their lives together, overall creating a perception of a typical happy couple. Some people never bought the whole idea, calling them fake, and saying that it was a too good to be true relationship. One such comment that caught my eye was, when someone in a relationship spends their time trying to convince strangers online of their happiness, I immediately know they're unhappy. As though to vindicate that line of thought, the incident, which unfolded on the night of July 4th, revealed a much darker reality. So here's what went down. The events leading to the shooting began during the Flower Mound Independence Fest, which Brownlee and Hashemi had attended. Witnesses reported that the couple was engaged in a heated argument before they got into their car and drove away. However, the confrontation only escalated, and according to police reports, when the car got to the 1800 block of Flower Mound Road, Brownlee stopped and pulled out a handgun, which he used to shoot his girlfriend in the face, right above her eye. A witness immediately called 911, and rescuers and police took over from there. Brownlee was taken in, and although unclear whether or not he had an attorney, he actually confessed to having committed the crime and also told the police that despite all the funny TikTok videos, he had a physically and verbally abusive relationship with his girlfriend. Now, immediately following the shooting, Hashemi had been found lying outside their car in a severely critical condition and was transported to Baylor Scott and White Medical Center for urgent medical care. Her condition was reported as life-threatening, which naturally prompted great concern from friends, family, and followers who had been following their online life. Interestingly, as people, their followers mainly, dug around and did their homework, it was discovered that some of the couple's videos actually depicted their violence, like one where Brownlee was seen putting Zara into a chokehold and punching her. In another clip, Brownlee and Zara were having a conversation where Brownlee seemed to have told her that he would not marry her, and she responded by saying that he would find another wife after she died. TikTok users in the video's comment section said that it was some sort of foreshadowing because those words by Zara almost rang true in light of the shooting incident. Anyway, these older videos got a fresh batch of comments issuing all sorts of advice. One commenter, for instance, urged ladies to always look out for the red flags in their partners and to never beg anyone for love, as it appeared Zara was doing, since there's always someone out there that would treat them right. Additionally, that user, and others actually, and maybe rightfully so, pointed out the disconnect between their public persona and private struggles highlights a troubling aspect of social media, where curated representations can mask serious issues. Anyway, Brownlee was held by the police soon after his confession, and given the nature of the crime, the authorities indicated that additional charges could follow, particularly as details of the couple's history and the context of the argument became clearer. His bond was set at $900,000. It was also clear that were he to be convicted of aggravated assault, he would have to possibly face substantial prison time. Then, on top of all that, Zara's condition only complicated his legal situation even more. In an update, her sister shared on social media that although Zara was awake and stable, she had a long recovery ahead of her. Her whole family was relieved because doctors had initially told them to say goodbye. They were happy for her strength and recovery. Zara's sister also shared that they didn't want to disclose any information about what happened in the couple's relationship without Zara's explicit consent, saying, "We understand everyone is curious, but we haven't released any information and would like to keep it private and limit any communication to the news outlets or people outside the family." Still, the story is out there and has people talking. In a detailed video done by Law and Crime Network, for example, many expressed heated sentiments. For instance, someone commented, "He should be charged with attempted murder. He literally shot her in the face and she's in critical condition. TF?" And another said, "So you get into a little argument and your first thought is attempted murder? What world do y'all live in?" Now, seeing as it's quite a recent case that happened just a few months ago and has some depth to it, there hasn't been much development on it, and we all know that Brownlee will most likely face serious outcomes once he goes into trial. Bacari-Bronze Mizzy. In April of 2024, a TikTok prankster who went by the online name Mizzy was found guilty of stealing a woman's phone while riding an e-bike. Mizzy, officially known as Bacari-Bronze rose to infamy on TikTok after posting a series of silly jokes, though some weren't funny at all. Quite frankly, none of them were funny. Some people, for instance, questioned the types of pranks he did, like invading people's homes and walking behind people then taking off their hats. He was 17 and a father of one at the time of the incident. That was on the 15th of June back in 2022. Now, the victim in this particular case was an unsuspecting woman later identified as Ruby Hewitt. She had been casually walking down Highbury New Park in Islington, England, when Mizzy snatched her iPhone 13 as he rode away in his lime green e-bike. The woman said that she had been distracted, texting on her phone, and therefore didn't see the thief's face. That's also because of how fast everything happened. She approximated that the whole incident lasted about 10 seconds, and also part of it was because all she could see was his back. However, despite that, she was very certain that the thief was black because she did see his hand. Anyway, as per her admission, the phone was apparently estimated to have been worth 1,000 euros. She also added that she was left feeling anxious and unsure of her safety by the entire ordeal. Now, Mizzy fled the scene, but the police eventually caught up with him on a different suspicion. Edward Kalber, one of the prosecuting team, said that Mizzy had only been caught because he had already been arrested for an unrelated reason, something that just happened to coincide with the woman's phone theft. Apparently, Mizzy had been cycling suspiciously in a way that suggested that he was trying to get away with or from something, which made police pursue him. When he was eventually caught up with by the police, he threw away the phone behind a bush before being apprehended. According to Mizzy, a friend he was cycling with had given him the phone, and he wasn't involved in the alleged theft whatsoever. He also claimed that his earlier suspicions, like hiding behind the bush and throwing away the evidence, were because he was afraid of the police. Mizzy claimed that at the time he felt uncomfortable speaking with the police because of the negative stereotypes they had in the area. Although Mizzy's lawyer, Karen Weeks, attempted to defend him by claiming that he indeed was scared of the police because of some previous time served, which somehow affected his mental health, the judge wasn't having it. The presiding magistrate, Ms. Fro Kriako, ruled Mizzy's claim as not credible because there had been no mention of any other cyclist at the time of the incident, and stated that she didn't believe that he had run away because he was scared of the police. She thus found him guilty. While sentencing the prankster, Judge Michael Oliver gave the then 19-year-old a 12-month community order and said that he must pay 500 euros in compensation to the victim, further stating that the sentencing would serve to punish him and make reparations of the community at large. People were, however, clearly unsatisfied with the consequences, one saying that the UK needs proper sentencing like the US, since in the US, this type of offense would get at least several years in jail. Another said, theft of property and evading the police, and just left off with essentially a slap on the wrist because it's just a prank, bro? What the hell? As I said earlier, this dude was a prankster, where all he did was cause unconventional scenes and make people uncomfortable, and this just looked like another one of his pranks. Actually, a little more digging into Mizzy reveals that he actually had another run-in with the law a year after the theft incident. This was in May of 2023. At that time, the prankster was due to stand trial for the phone theft, but the defense brought up new allegations, in which he was accused of posting people's videos on TikTok without their consent. This had happened less than a day after the UK had passed the criminal behavior order, and in the video, Mizzy can be seen and heard mocking the British judicial system, saying that the UK law system is weak and a big joke. He was released on bail and was released to go on trial later in the year. Some other videos on his Snapchat were also presented in court and showed Mizzy roughing up some victims of what he claimed was a hoax video that he did with the victim's consent. He further added that he wasn't the one who posted the videos, and insisted that a friend of his who had his login details posted it without his knowledge. This led to him being banned from using social media apart from sending messages. He wasn't allowed to post videos, especially without the prior consent of anyone appearing in them. So by the time of his trial for the phone theft, Mizzy had made quite the criminal record for himself. In a series of TV interviews though, Mizzy claims to be doing better for himself because he wants to do right by his son and by the mother of his son. He also apologized for causing any harm or psychological torment to all of his victims. Alford Lewis made TikToks of him sucker punching random strangers. Alford Lewis is maybe the perfect example of a prank gone wrong after the 19-year-old TikToker was arrested and charged with assault with bodily injury and aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon involving two people on the 26th of October in 2023 in Texas. In a video posted on TikTok, Lewis walked up to a victim who was just strolling in the park and randomly attacked him, punching him in the head from behind. The victim just seemed to be too shocked to process what was happening. The clip is quite objectively upsetting, and with a lot of people watching it, a lot of people were outraged. Comments on different uploads of the clip, shared across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and almost every social media, just spoke of outrage with sentiments touching on the physical injury and trauma possibly caused by the act and the fact that it happened for no good reason. The outrage was also felt off the internet because apparently the whole of Houston City wanted the guys involved in prison. It would then be confirmed shortly after the incidents, yep, there was more than one, that the Harris County Sheriff's Office had taken over the investigation. Also, the case was a pretty straightforward one since the evidence was there, making rounds online. Lewis was facing up to 15 years in prison, and the judge in his hearing set the bond at $30,000. There was also the requirement that he wear a GPS ankle monitor, and that he be placed under house arrest once he was released from prison. This, by the way, was a much more lenient bond compared to what the prosecutors had demanded, $75,000. This is especially because Lewis had already admitted to his crime. Also, in an earlier video before the one that went viral and got him in trouble, and this is based on court documents, Lewis was seen approaching a man, tapping his shoulder with a firearm, and pointing it at him while demanding that the man give him his phone. When he refused, Lewis could be seen passing the gun to his friend, who then pointed it to the man as Lewis punched and choked him. Locals in the area, probably unaware that this was supposed to be a prank, were completely frightened, particularly considering the park was known to be a very safe place where they would go to do normal things, enjoy time with their family, or walk the dogs. Most had come to find out about the video from it being posted on the Nextdoor app. Shortly after that incident, news reporters had then flooded Lewis's house, and to their surprise, he was willing to give them an interview. According to him, it was nothing more than just a TikTok prank that he and his friend had decided to do while they were hanging out in the park.
11 talked to Lewis, who admitted he was the guy in the video and that he regretted it.
I just made a mistake, and everybody makes mistakes.
Lewis went on to share he did it to get likes and views on social media.
The friend Lewis was with and who had allegedly recorded the incidents was identified to be 18-year-old Kingston Miker. Now, the part that really sickened people was that the boys were laughing and seemingly unremorseful for what they were doing. Lewis did try coming up with a big brain excuse though. You want to hear it? He said that people hadn't seen the entirety of the video. They just saw the bad part of the video. He said that what people hadn't seen was that he gave the man a hug after the prank and shook his hand. Yep, after punching him. Cool, dude. And even if that is true, the dude was probably just shocked, wanted to get away from the situation. Look guys, I'm just throwing in my 2 cents, Tuv's 2 cents here. I personally think the reason they recorded this was because they wanted it to be perfect excuse in case they got caught or anything. Well, it was just going to be a prank, but in reality, it wasn't going to be a prank. They were just going to steal this guy's phone or beat him up for fun. I don't know why you would actually think this is a funny prank, but hey, maybe they did. Remember, that was just a Tuv theory. Maybe these guys actually thought that was funny. I don't know. Humanity sucks. One Redditor commented, "It was unbelievable that he could say all that with a straight face after literally sucker punching someone." In that same interview where he said that, Lewis also explained that he didn't intend for things to go down the way they did and that his parents were already disappointed in him. Jeez, I wonder why. Now, although Lewis admitted to the assault, his friend Miker denied having recorded them and instead insisted that Lewis persuaded him to post them on his social media because he apparently had a larger following. Regardless, both of them were arrested and faced similar charges. That was after at least one victim came forward. Again, Lewis did not look remorseful about the whole thing and kept insisting it was just a prank, a silly mistake, and that everyone makes mistakes. He even went ahead to advise other people who might have thought of doing pranks, urging them to really think about what they're about to do and perhaps not do it at all if the consequences look bad. His neighbors, like Frankie and Patrick, were of the same opinion, saying that they hoped Lewis would get the help he needed and that he could learn a lesson from his time in jail. Also that he was adult enough to know right from wrong, and assaulting people. It looks like he's still in custody and has a court date on December 5th of this year. Icy Wyatt, too famous to go to jail. Y'all don't know who I am? Are you serious? You guys are so fucking annoying. This is what the popular TikToker Icy Wyatt had to say when he was being arrested. The 23-year-old was arrested on the 28th of March in 2022 after allegedly assaulting a police officer and a civilian with a firearm. He was charged with 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 1 account of battery on an officer, and 1 account of resisting arrest. Now, before we get onto the whole incident, it's safe to say Icy Wyatt wasn't new to controversy. Before becoming a TikToker, for instance, he was apparently employed at McDonald's for a day. Yeah, you heard me, for a day. And he lost the job. This is according to his family after he got so high on Xanax and blacked out. That's when he turned to TikTok. Describing his page as a safe space, he would become known for posting videos about him being a quote feminine man who was into girls. Now about the arrest, according to the court documents, Wyatt was driving quite recklessly in Sunrise, Florida when he suddenly pulled over right in the middle of the road. 2 people in another car reportedly approached him to request that he move his car to the side since he was blocking their way. They then drove off. Clearly, that interaction pissed Wyatt off since he followed them to a nearby Chick-fil-A parking lot where both parties seemed to engage in a heated argument. It was at that moment that Wyatt allegedly pulled out a gun from his car and threatened the two. Noticing the gun, one of them retreated and tried to get back into their car, but Wyatt took that opportunity to hit him on the head with the back of the gun. Wyatt then attempted to flee the scene, but the victims as well as witnesses had already dialed 911. Interestingly, Wyatt was also on a 911 call by the time the police officers arrived. He had, however, given completely contradicting information to the operator. According to him, he had pulled over because someone had tried to kill him. 4 guys had jumped out of a truck and threatened to beat him up, so he pulled out his gun in self-defense. He got arrested though, not very cooperatively. Body cam footage shows him being pushed down as he resisted and even kicked one of the officers in the thigh. He even asked one of the officers how he didn't see a problem with what was going on. His exact words being, "You don't see a problem that somebody with a bright pink car, who was famous online, gets with on the freeway all the time?" The body cam footage shows a video of his girlfriend Moir, who defended him, claiming that he hit the victim with his gun because they were attacking him. People would go on digging around, and soon enough, they found out that this wasn't his first time he'd been in a traffic infraction. Turns out that he used to live in California, but moved to Florida because he wasn't allowed to drive in California anymore. He had several driving offenses, including being under the influence and having suspended licenses. Even worse, Wyatt had previously posted a video of his road rage, captioning it, "Don't play with me, the fuck." Anyway, Wyatt had a court hearing the following day, which he bonded out and later urged his followers to not believe the quote false news, and then posted a TikTok video mocking everyone who had tried canceling him, saying that nobody could get rid of him. He went as far as calling the paparazzi on himself to justify why, and he said, "Y'all don't know who I am?" In an interesting turn also, of all people, Wyatt's reaction to his arrest and the possibility of a 20-year sentence led to a TikTok beef with his own mother, eventually ruining the relationship because he failed to take any of her advice against violating any other traffic rules. Yep, he was rearrested while still out on bail, and a judge ruled that he would have to remain in prison until his trial date. He had shared a TikTok video predicting it would only be a month, but 3 months later, there was still no word from him. Probably realizing the gravity of the issue, he wrote a letter to the judge claiming to feel horrible about how he handled the whole situation, but the judge wasn't having it. Eventually, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison, followed by 1 year of house arrest with a GPS monitor and 4 more years on probation. He was also required to have a mental health evaluation and prescription compliance. That sentence seemed to have vindicated those who believed he was acting too famous to go to jail. Jacob Pursifull jumped into a gator pit. Clout chasing is definitely not anything new, but if there were rewards for it, this guy would definitely get one. On May 31st of 2023, the 20-year-old TikToker risked his life by jumping into a zoo's alligator pit at the Busch Gardens Tampa in Tampa Bay, Florida. At the time, this dude only had 1,184 followers across all social media platforms, so some thought it was odd for him to do such a TikTok stunt for that number. Anyway, on this day of the incident, Jacob snuck into Busch Gardens with 2 of his friends and pretended to be stuck in one of the roller coaster rides. They then reportedly stole snacks from an unnamed concession before heading to the alligator exhibit, where Jacob recorded the entire stunt. In a video that he later posted on his TikTok, Jacob is seen hopping 2 fences that separate onlookers from the gators and then holds the camera towards the reptiles. He then does his best impression of the famous Australian zookeeper, Steve Irwin. By this time, a crowd has started forming and a bystander, who was also recording, tried to warn Jacob to get out, but Jacob ignored the pleas, completely unfazed by the possible consequences. Instead, Jacob called him, quote, "another wild Karen." His action actually made some speculate about his mental state. Anyway, it didn't take long before Jacob was identified and tracked down. The Tampa police issued a probable cause warrant for his arrest, and just a few days later, on the 5th of June, he was arrested. His case was pretty straightforward, as he and his 2 friends, identified as 19-year-old Lennon Miller and 18-year-old Christian Gonzalez, were charged with burglary and petty theft. For your information, Florida law dictates that burglary is a 3rd-degree felony, which is punishable up to 5 years in state prison. Luckily for Jacob and his 2 other friends, they didn't face any jail time. But in addition to those charges, Jacob was required to complete 75 long hours of community service, pay $135 in restitution to Busch Gardens, submit a letter of apology to the park, and take down all social media posts and content related to the stunt. He was also restricted from having any sort of contact with the park, among other conditions. According to the spokesperson for the state attorney's office, Aaron Maloney, the park was satisfied with the resolutions. Maloney also said that Jacob did not have any prior criminal record, which must have played a huge role in the verdict. Following the incident, Busch Gardens has since installed additional fencing around the exhibit, probably to reinforce security and prevent similar incidents in the future. Although this did anger people, they rightfully blame him for ruining future visitors' experiences. Madison Russo faked cancer, got fined $39,000. Cancer is a big and serious deal. That's why when Madison Russo created a TikTok account to share the devastating news of her diagnosis with the internet, people naturally were sympathetic to her and even funded her treatment. What appeared to be the saddest part of all of it though was that Madison had not one, not two, but 3 different cancer types, including stage 2 pancreatic cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and a football-sized tumor that wrapped around her spine. Mind you, these are some of the worst cancers. As a matter of fact, pancreatic cancer has the lowest rate of survival out of all the cancer types. So who wouldn't feel sorry for this woman? Well, that didn't last long because it was quickly discovered to all be a scam. Now, just a bit of background on her. Madison Russo was born in March of 2003 and went to the University of Iowa. It was during her time in college in 2022 that she allegedly began to feel quote-unquote off, as she experienced sporadic fevers, bloody stools, and random nosebleeds. This eventually led to her seeking medical assistance from her university doctor. In a video she posted, Madison claimed to have received the worst news of her life on the 10th of February 2022 when she got a call from her oncologist, who allegedly told her they had found a mass on her pancreas and that she was suffering from stage 2 pancreatic cancer. Madison further claimed that she only had an 11% chance of living throughout the next 5 years. Now, interestingly, even this early on to her scam, people were starting to catch on. It appeared, for example, as if she was reading straight out of a script with the way that her eyes were darting to the left of the screen. For someone that was sharing such a personal and devastating story, some argue that this just seemed disingenuous. Madison would go on to consistently create content to give updates on her diagnosis and treatment, even revealing that doctors were unable to perform surgery on her to remove the mass that it was on the tail of her pancreas, and that attempting to move it would cause more harm than good. Devastated, she added that at just 19 years old, she didn't know if she would ever get to see the day that she would graduate college, get married, or become a mom. She'd then go on with her cancer treatment, which would have included 15 rounds of oral chemotherapy and 90 rounds of radiation. Again, some people spotted a discrepancy in her claims, as she had long, healthy hair in all of her videos. Interesting, because while not every cancer victim loses hair, the type of treatment Madison was claiming she was receiving usually involves some hair loss. In response, Madison posted another TikTok video where she explained that she hadn't lost her hair because of the brand of chemo she was on, and because she had been taking biotin, a supplement used to boost hair, skin, and nail growth. But there was still more doubt, like how she juggled everyday activities while on chemo. Then Madison allegedly even stole pictures and videos from actual cancer victims and used them to create a whole pity party. On the money side, documenting her health journey on TikTok for most of 2022 allowed her to raise more than $37,000 on GoFundMe from at least 439 donors. Her scam came to light when she got the attention of medical professionals who ruled out the likelihood of her diagnosis. This sparked an investigation, and police found out that she had actually never been diagnosed with any cancer at any medical facility near her. She thus was arrested in January of 2023 by the Eldridge PD. Now, if you ever saw any of her videos, you know that she tried her best to showcase her undergoing treatment. Tubes, IV bags, hospital gowns. And these all turned out to be props. Props that police found in her apartment while doing a search. Madison was then set for trial in June of 2023. She pleaded guilty to first-degree theft. No jail time was granted though. Instead, she got a 10-year suspended sentence and was ordered to pay $39,000 in restitution and an additional $1,370 fine. So if she stayed out of trouble for 3 years of probation, she would technically be free. Not a popular verdict by any means. The Scott County prosecutor, Kelly Cunningham, said that there was no need for a harsher sentence because she was unlikely to commit another offense, considering she had no previous criminal history, had good grades in college, and was employed. The decision was questioned by the likes of Rhonda Miles, who runs a pancreatic cancer foundation in Nashville. Miles questioned why Cunningham was defending Madison. However, Judge John Telline denied her a defense to make sure that her criminal record wasn't wiped out and that anyone who dealt with her in the future knew exactly what they were getting themselves into. Madison did apologize to her victims, but also said that she never set out to make up the cancer story out of greed of money. All she wanted was something to bring together her dysfunctional family. Thomas Brienza. Threatened to blow up airport, FBI got involved. Numerous content creators base their content on comedy and prank related videos, and sometimes they end up funny, other times they're extremely unfunny. 20-year-old Thomas Brienza is a perfect example of unfunny, to the point where he even got arrested. He threatened to blow up an airport as part of a TikTok prank. Just so you know, Brienza isn't a small creator. He calls himself @TomTheTroll on TikTok and has more than 300,000 followers. Anyway, for someone who self-identifies as a troll, his videos are very on brand. The content is literally just him being a nuisance. For example, harassing workers at Chipotle, approaching the cops claiming that he had committed crimes and that he was a threat, and even inciting crowds to applaud for Diddy, chanting "Free Diddy." It is thus no wonder people have heavily criticized his content choice. Anyway, the incident in question here went down just recently on the 24th of August. This was in Charleston, South Carolina. The Charleston County aviation officers were on duty at the ticketing area at Charleston Airport that Saturday when Brienza approached them and told them that he, quote, didn't want any trouble, right before claiming he had a bomb and a gun in a car parked outside. He also said that he had fentanyl on him. A bomb is equally, if not more, illegal. Since this was a quote-unquote prank, Brienza was recording the whole thing with a hidden camera, the one in the Ray-Ban sunglasses. The authorities acted quickly and handcuffed him, then proceeded to search his car for the items he claimed to be in possession of. They quickly figured out it was a false alarm. No drugs, no gun, and definitely no bomb. It was later discovered that Brienza was at the airport to pick up one of his friends that had ridden there with two different friends who were in the car during the search. Although the two admitted that Brienza does such things on social media, they had no idea about this particular prank. In fact, their exact words were, "He has never done anything this stupid." Anyway, his crazy stunt resulted in him being taken to the Al Cannon Detention Center on a charge of possession or threat to use weapons of mass destruction. He was detained there, during which he was reportedly very cooperative and that he was clueless about the severity of his actions. This was clearly a very serious offense because even the FBI was contacted and a search warrant was granted for his iPhone and the sunglasses. The FBI also reported that based on the charges, Brienza ought to have been placed on a no-fly restriction. Although it's uncertain if whether or not it got to that point, if it had, it would have meant that Brienza would be restricted from flying within, into, or out of the United States. Later, a judge ordered Brienza to be held on a $100,000 bond, which he paid up and got released amid mixed reactions. He then went ahead to post a TikTok video appreciating life as beautiful, adding that he didn't take it for granted. He even slid in a Bible quote, Jeremiah 29:11. Safe to say, he might have realized he flew too close to the sun and that people wanted him in jail. Some saying that it was so that from there, he could, quote, hop from cell to cell making pranks if he wanted to. Kylie Strickland flashed kids. If you want a story that's gonna boil your blood, well, here you go. Honestly, everything else we've talked about probably did the same. 30-year-old Georgian TikToker Kylie Strickland was arrested on charges of electronic pornography and child exploitation after flashing two underage boys while on a TikTok live. Before we get into the case, a little background on Strickland. Born on the 18th of October 1991, she grew up with her parents and siblings in LaGrange, Georgia in the United States. That's pretty much we know, not much is known about her, she doesn't have that much clout. We however know Strickland was in a relationship with Cody Weems, which ended after only a few months of them being together. She had experienced domestic abuse in that relationship. We also know she had 4 kids who were in the custody of their father at the time. As for social media and content creation, she kickstarted her career in 2019, and it took a couple of years before she could build her fan base. By the time of the incident in 2022, she had amassed more than 200,000 TikTok followers. Yeah, that's kind of contradicting for me to say she has no clout and then say she has 200,000 TikTok followers, but I think we all know that TikTok followers are extremely inflated. You have 200,000 on TikTok, that probably means you have a good two hardcore fans. She had started identifying as an influencer and would sell her own merchandise through her brand's website, KylieStrickland.com, which is, the site is since closed. Something else worth noting was that Kylie was not just a TikTok influencer, she was also an OnlyFans model. So what actually happened? Well, on the 30th of June in 2022, Kylie was on a live TikTok stream, which is something she would often do. On this particular stream, she hadn't been alone. Rather, although blurred, 2 little boys who were assumed to have been at least 8 years old at the time could be seen in the pool together alongside her, and another woman who would later be identified as the boy's mom. At first, Strickland asked the 2 young boys if they were having fun, and the younger of the 2 responded that they were having enough fun to see titties. Strickland then said bottoms up, as if attempting to make a toast before asking them if they were ready. It looked like she was just gonna tease them, which is still disgusting, but then she fully lifted her top up, revealing her boobs. She did this not only in front of the 8-year-old boys, I don't know their exact age again, but they're single-digit boys, the mother of the boys, and also doing it on a live stream, just recording your crime, the amazing thing that influencers do when they record their crimes. I'm sure the police is just so fascinated by the fact that we live in this new era where people just record their crimes. And a really weird part was that the 2 boys' mom seemed unfazed. Saying that this whole thing caused an outrage is an understatement. The host of the Dad Challenge podcast, for instance, criticized the entire thing, acknowledging that the boys were victims and also questioning what kind of parent would allow such behavior. The incident had happened in Pike County, Georgia, and the sheriff's office there immediately began an investigation. Kylie was arrested and later released on bond. Once out, she got on another live stream to share updates. The investigator had said that he didn't want to see anything like that again. That somehow made some feel like she was making light of the situation and questioned what would have become of the situation if the tables were turned and it was a middle-aged man flashing 2 little girls. People, especially parents, were agitated. Despite all the criticism though, some people were weirdly on Strickland's side, claiming that all she had done was, quote, just shown boobs, which should not have been such a big deal. Strickland defended herself by saying that the affected little boys were not as innocent as everyone thought, that they had seen more boobs than she probably had in her entire lifetime. Oh my god. Yup. Guys, you heard it here first. It wasn't that bad. Me showing these little kids my private parts is not that bad. They've probably seen it more than I have. They have the internet. Wow. You know what's crazy, guys? That idiots like this exist. Idiots like this exist. Could be your neighbor, could be your family, a family member, could be like these people are real. They're real people. Remember when she said bottoms up in the video? Well, she also alleged that the boys had been drinking alcohol at the pool even before she got there. She also added that she wasn't responsible for helping other adults raise their children, especially if they were present in the situation. That was alluding to the fact that the mother basically did nothing about the flashing. That never got well received either. Anyway, Strickland got banned from being on any kind of social media platform, and it's quite unclear what became of her. Some online reports claim that she had been put into therapy because she had apparently pleaded to have been drunk while flashing the kids, and that she has since been working at her local Dollar Tree. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys want to buy some of these cool shirts, there's also hoodies and the sweatpants, which I said at the beginning, but if you guys do want to check it out, it's at earldoesn'texist.com. If you guys want to support my new animated show, 2 Gay Cats, you can go watch the episode, and maybe you can buy the actual keychain plushie. That directly helps the animator. So yeah, it's actually one animator. So shout out to Dean. Shout out to Dean, very good person. And yeah, that's really it for this video. I hope you guys are enjoying November. It's almost the end of the year. Make sure to grind to the end of the year. That's it for me. I'll see you guys next time I upload.